Our lesson was on highlighting as the strategy, but the strategy was to incorporate problem-solving skills in order to write and solve one-step equations. And the students were trying to identify what was important to create the equation that would be able to answer the question for each of the situations.
Yes, but the highlight happens first. It looks like he's on number 1. And it looks like Chandler might also be on one. So let's slow down. And let's get back on number 1 to see what it is important and how we're going to use that to write an expression to solve. Can you back up to number 1? Did you have the same thing highlighted? Because y'all kind of did it separately. So let's go back to number 1. What do you agree is important?
Miss Ward, do we underline like the last question, like the question that like sums up the whole thing?
Yes, the phrase that lets you know what it is. Yes, that's important. Anything that's important that lets you know what it is you are doing.
Okay, we were going to ask you about that.
Well, very good. And see how you signified that differently? That's a good strategy. She has some things circled and some underlined. That's important. Like the operation is written differently maybe? That's a good variation. All right, that is important. Your marker's really dark. Maybe you want to underline on the next one. If you can see it though, that's great.
When students were working together and they decided that a piece of information was important and the group decided, they had all highlighted this portion, then they had to decide what to do with the information. And part of my role as I moved from group to group was to facilitate some thinking about what is being asked and what are the different ways, because oftentimes, a multiply sounds like a divide and vice versa because they are inverse operations. So let's think about what is being asked and what situation is that really, because oftentimes we've trained them so well to focus on what the inverse is, which is how you get the solution, of course. But I was focusing and hoping that the highlight would slow them down to just analyze first what is the situation.
Okay, so how do you use what you've circled and what you've underlined to write your expression to answer the question? She said divide. What do you say? How do you know to divide?
Because it's asking how many.
How many what
Steps so you divide.
would it take? Okay, so on number 1, they think divide. Do you agree? You're on the right track. And then if you all agree to divide, what are you dividing?
By the reciprocal.
Okay, but what is the value? What is the value that's being divided?
307
Meters.
and 3/10.
Okay, so if you agree, then you should, with your pencil, write that out underneath. And then you can begin solving that divide, which you know how to do.
The highlighting helps them see that you can have various ways of saying the same thing, because I don't want them to be trapped. Maybe in lower grades, they really would focus on how much or, other keywords. What is the total? Those words are very handy and helpful, but we need to understand that people in situations don't always just lay it out so simply. So the highlighting gave them a variety of different words, real word applications of when multiply should occur and divide. And so I thought that was another way to broaden it so that it's not so simplistic all the time, because that's not the way real world problems are presented.
The Wheeling Bridge in West Virginia is about 307 4/5 meters long. If you walk around about 3/10 meter, how many steps would it take you to cross the subsuspension of the bridge?
Okay. How many steps
Would it take?
Yeah. Well, what does how many mean? Like
That means
multiply, divide?
no.
No, subtract.
I think it's add. But she said this is multiplying and
never
dividing.
mind. It is
Probably.
Probably.
Multiply. Maybe
If
divide.
you divide, it just turns into multiplication.
So it'll be 3.
Wait, what is it?
I'm just writing down 307 and 4/5. I'm trying to figure out what it is. How many?
That probably be divide.
It's divide, I think.
Yeah.
You're going to multiply 5 times 307.
You gotta do a lot of math.
What's 307 times 5?
I'm about to do that.
Oh yeah, you do gotta make that. The Flathead Rail Tunnel in Montana is about 7 3/4 miles long. If a train travels through the tunnel at a speed of about 1.5 miles per minute, how long will it take to pass from one end of the tunnel to another? I think that's multiply.
Me too.
So maybe there's that.
7 3/4.
7, okay, that's 30.
That's 28.
28, 29, 30, 31. Yeah, no. 29, 30, 30. Yeah, that's 31 over 4.
4. That's 3 over 2.
Yeah.
Wait. Yeah, 3 over 2. 7, 5, 4 multiply? Yeah.
Oh, I didn't.
No, I wouldn't. I mean, numbers easy.
Yeah.
They don't go in there.
No.
Heck no.
31 and 2 don't go together.
That's 90. 93 over 8.
Yeah, that's what I got.
The lesson did get them engaged in talking with each other and really trying to decide if they had the appropriate equation set up, you know, to really answer the question. And that was my emphasis, because so many times, even in the honors class, they're just quick to see numbers and make a calculation, and they don't really take the time to reflect on whether it's even a reasonable result for what their question is asking. So that was my focus as well. And I think it went okay as far as that went, as far as making them pause to think, is this what I should be doing? Should I be multiplying? Is this an addition statement? In fact, you know.
The American Indian population was about 2 million. That is 2 million.
Go ahead.
About 1/5 were Cherokee, and about how many members of Cherokee tribe were there in 1990?
I don't know how to do that.
I don't
Me
either.
either.
Do I put, do we
It's
put 2
divide.
million over 1?
Yeah.
Are
Put
you
it
on
over
number
1.
3?
Yeah.
What did you highlight first?
It was about 2 million, and about 1/5 of it.
That's significant.
It's divide, because it's about.
But when you put 2 million over 1?
The other two have been about multiply.
All right. Does everybody agree that it's a divide?
Yeah.
I think it's divide.
Okay, when you get your answers on all of these, you're agreeing on what's important. You're doing a highlight. Look back at the question. Did y'all highlight a significant portion of the question? What word or phrases?
About how many?
About how many? Okay, I like that. When you do that operation, and then your answer doesn't make sense, that's a clue that you did the wrong operation. How do you know if your answer makes sense then? Well, look at this problem, just for example. If we're talking about a population of American Indians, or 2 million, what would happen if your answer was less than 2 million? Is that reasonable?
Either way, it's going to be multiplied because you're going to have
If you're talking about a part, the Cherokee, they're part of them. Is the number less than 2 million what you're looking at? So if you get a number greater than 2 million, is that going to be a clue that there's some problem?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a strategy too, right? So did you agree on number 1 and number 2?
Yeah.
The answer, I didn't get to that, so I appreciate
They really still need, in the middle grades, more practice at being effective group members for dialogue and sharing and their evidence and their opinions, and being respectful of that, and not just wanting to move on, because a lot of times I think group work sometimes you have a group where one student is just working, and the others are happy to join in all the replies that they have, so I was really deliberate about trying to make sure they kept the same pace, that they had dialogue about what was important, and to not shoot each other's ideas down, and listen respectfully and make sure that they agreed and validated what was important in the word problem, so that they were able to determine what equation to write. And then
Very good. How do you determine what's important?
Oh, well, like the numbers and stuff. And you
The
have
numbers
to,
and the fractions.
and then the question, about where it says about.
Oh, that's good. Did you see? I can see that you circled the word about. So did you. Did you all do that? So how is about significant? Does that change anything?
Yeah, like estimate. All the way there.
Okay.
Isn't that what I was
Maybe it has to do with the numbers that are given in the problem. So on numbers 1 and 2, when you worked out the math, did you double check your answers to make sure they were reasonable for what the question was asking?
Yeah, that one is for sure.
Okay.
That one.
That's just a good error check on any problem solving. Take the time to look and say, does this make sense for what I'm being asked? Okay, continue. I like the talking. I did hear that. It was very good.
We're all stuck on number 1, and nobody.
You're not agreeing?
No, ma'am.
All right, so what's our problem or what's our area of disagreement?
Because right here we're trying to get that into 3, and me and Nick did it, and it was 513. They got something completely different.
Okay, so the simplify, but you do agree on the problem setup. That's not the question. Okay, so you're just disagreeing on a calculation.
Dialogue was my focus, and I found that it was a lot of work just redirecting and prompting them from their natural inclination to just, reply that way, but to be more official, businesslike about how you would tactfully disagree with someone or agree, and also when you agree, why, yes, I agree because, and, stating evidence. And so they were able to look back at the highlight they had made as to, why they selected this operation or why they,
Are we talking to Connor? Devin, are we talking? But what number are we on together? 3. 3. What do you have to say for 3? Talk to them. They don't have anything written on 3 yet. She's starting, so talk on your number 3.
I got. Tell me what I got.
What's highlighted? What are you doing, multiplying or dividing?
2. But right here, you can change that number right there. You can change it to 2. Yeah, but you don't focus. Yeah, I know. I did. You do multiplication. I just did that, and I got. No, you multiply.
Can you? They can't see you're that, so tell them what you did.
Sure, but I'm pretty sure.
I didn't focus, so I just multiplied set of columns and I multiplied.
You don't.
So you did multiplication instead of division. You chose that. Why did you choose it?
Because it kind of looked easier.
It looked easier, but do you get a choice though? Was there something in the words that let you know it was to multiply? Do you agree with multiply, Connor McKenzie? Why do you agree?
Because it's originally a divide sentence and then
Okay, so he said it's not originally a divide sentence. That's what I'm asking. He said it's originally a multiply sentence. So do you agree with that or not? Trevor, what do you think? On number 3. So Mackenzie thinks it's a what type of sentence?
Oh, it's a divide sentence.
All right, so they think it's a divide sentence. Do you also think it's a divide sentence? We'll have to stop right here. I guess make sure your name is on that. Does the highlight help? What about talking with people?
Oh, yeah.
Talking with people helps you catch your own errors, but you have to be brave enough to say, I disagree. So I hope everybody was respectful, right? Yeah. Well, you're nice. We're nice. Yeah. All right. Let me see.
If you're a math teacher and you are thinking about literacy, I think trying the variety of strategies are really helpful, but I found that the highlighting strategy is very important. It's not just a literacy strategy that's used in other places, but it really is what we already have been doing, but we might not have called it that. And so to name it and intentionally try to use the highlighting as the literacy strategy in conjunction with what you naturally would do would be the best benefit for the students, for their understanding of what is important and how to work together, in this case because it was group work, work together to use that information that we collectively decide is important together to solve the problem. So I think the literacy strategies are important to have intentional planning for them, to include them in your lesson only maximizes the understanding of mathematics that your students will have.